Say it like you mean it. This is my Bible. I am what it says I am. I have what it says I have. I can do what it says I can do.
In 2003, Joel Osteen stood in front of cameras and made a promise to Houston. He was going to build something the city had never seen, a church so big, so powerful, so welcoming that nobody would ever feel left out. For a while, it worked. Millions showed up, millions tuned in. But today, something is very different, and the people who left aren't going to another church. They're not going anywhere at all. To understand what fell apart, you need to see what was built first. A megachurch isn't just a big congregation. It has a definition. According to the Hartford Institute for Religion Research, it's any Protestant church with at least 2,000 people showing up every week. By the early 2000s, America had roughly 1,750 of them. That number would have been impossible just decades earlier. These weren't small churches that slowly grew over time. They were designed for scale from day one. The blueprint started back in the 1950s with a preacher named Robert Schuller. He began by preaching to people sitting in their cars at drive-in movie lots in Orange County. No church building, no pews, just cars and a message about possibility. Eventually, he built the Crystal Cathedral, a massive glass and steel structure that became famous through television. His sermons weren't about hell or judgment. They were about optimism, self-esteem, and practical advice wrapped in faith. The message was simple. The reach was massive. That model became a template. Churches started swapping out pews for padded theater seats. Sanctuaries turned into multi-building campuses. Hymnals disappeared. Giant screens and live bands took over. Coffee bars became standard. Parking was plentiful. Child care was convenient. Sunday morning turned into an event. But one church took it further than anyone else. The story really begins in 1999. Joel Osteen, Lakewood's founder, died suddenly. His son Joel had spent years behind the scenes producing television broadcasts. He wasn't a preacher. He wasn't trained in theology. He was a media producer who understood what worked on camera. Within months, the church board made him senior pastor. Membership doubled in a single year, from 11,000 to 22,000 people. The message shifted too. Fire and brimstone faded. Words like sin and repentance became rare. Instead, Joel focused on destiny, breakthrough, and living your best life now. The sermons felt less like church and more like motivational speaking, with Bible verses attached. In 2003, Lakewood made a move that shocked everyone. They signed a long-term lease on Houston's former Compaq Center, the arena where the Houston Rockets once won NBA championships. Over 2 years, they poured $95 million into renovations. The result? A 16,000-seat worship venue with concert lighting, massive video screens, and broadcast facilities that rivaled major television studios. Every Sunday became a spectacle. Joel Osteen stood at the center of it all, his message beaming out to millions on television and online. The crowds kept growing, the production kept improving. The model seemed unstoppable, but something was already broken underneath, and nobody saw it yet. While Lakewood was building its empire, another megachurch was making a disturbing discovery. Willow Creek Community Church near Chicago was one of the pioneers of the entire megachurch movement. By the mid-2000s, they had everything figured out, or so they thought. In 2007, they released the results of a massive internal study. They called it Reveal. They'd surveyed thousands of their own members over multiple years. The goal was simple: prove that their model actually worked. Prove that it produced spiritual growth. The data told a different story. Higher attendance didn't lead to deeper faith. More involvement in church programs didn't create spiritual maturity. Many longtime members described themselves as consumers of religious goods and services, not growing disciples. The activities were there. The transformation wasn't. Bill Hybels, Willow Creek's founder, made a stunning admission. He called it the wake-up call of his adult life. The church had spent decades perfecting a system that made people busy, but not necessarily changed. The findings sent shockwaves through megachurch leadership circles, but most churches faced a problem. They'd already invested millions in buildings, staff, and media infrastructure. The machine was too big to stop. Lakewood's response was telling. They doubled down. While Willow Creek was wrestling with uncomfortable truths, Lakewood was finishing its arena renovation. The focus stayed on experience, not formation, on inspiration, not transformation, on making people feel good, not necessarily helping them grow deep. Joel's sermons remained relentlessly positive. Critics started calling it the prosperity gospel light. No direct promises that God would make you rich, but plenty of suggestions that faith should lead to blessing, favor, and increase. The model worked beautifully. As long as one thing remained true, people kept showing up. The experience required the crowd. The energy fed off the numbers. The validation came from the packed seats and the viral sermon clips. It was a system built on momentum, but momentum is fragile. It requires constant fuel, constant growth, constant excitement, and when the fuel runs out, everything built on it starts to shake. For Lakewood, the first real test came not from inside the church, but from outside, from a hurricane that would expose a gap many had sensed but few had named. August 2017. Hurricane Harvey slammed into Houston with devastating force. Neighborhoods flooded. Highways became rivers. Thousands of families lost everything overnight. They needed shelter. They needed it immediately. The city scrambled to open emergency facilities. The convention center filled up fast. Schools opened their gyms. Churches across the city threw their doors open. Then people started asking a question on social media. Where is Lakewood? The church sat on higher ground. It had 16,000 seats, massive facilities, resources that dwarfed most shelters in the city. But the doors stayed closed. Photos began circulating online. Accusations flew. Why wasn't Joel Osteen opening his church while families slept on cots at the convention center? Lakewood responded with statements about flooding in parts of the building and safety concerns. On Sunday morning, August 27th, they posted on Facebook that the facility was inaccessible due to severe flooding. The backlash intensified. Critics shared videos showing dry entrances and accessible parking lots. The narrative hardened fast. Joel Osteen, the preacher of blessings and favor, was keeping his doors shut during the city's worst crisis in decades. By Monday, the story had gone national. Joel gave interviews defending the timeline. He insisted the church was never actually closed and would open as soon as the city requested it. He explained coordination issues. He talked about safety protocols. On Tuesday morning, Lakewood announced they were receiving evacuees. Within hours, volunteers filled the building with cots and supplies. The arena became a shelter and distribution center. They served thousands of people. They coordinated relief efforts. They stayed open for weeks. But for many, the damage was done. The initial perception, fair or not, was that Lakewood hesitated when Houston needed help most. Supporters argued the criticism ignored real safety issues and coordination requirements. They pointed to the work Lakewood did once they opened. Detractors saw something else, a gap between the message and the moment. For years, Joel had preached about being a blessing to others, about stepping up in difficult times, about letting your faith show through action. When the test came, the response felt slow, reluctant, calculated. Former members would later point to Harvey as a turning point. Not the moment they left, but the moment they started questioning. The moment the gap between what was preached and what was practiced became too obvious to ignore. Trust, once cracked, doesn't heal easily. And Lakewood's trust was about to face an even bigger test, one that wouldn't just question their response to a crisis, but would break the very system the church was built on. March 2020 arrived with silence. For the first time in decades, Lakewood's doors stayed shut on Sunday morning. Across America, church after church moved services online. The parking lots stayed empty. The ushers stayed home. The crowds disappeared overnight. At first, streaming felt temporary, a brief interruption. Churches assured members they'd be back soon. Weeks turned into months. Then something unexpected started happening. People who had attended church regularly for years simply stopped. The habit broke, and many realized they didn't miss it as much as they thought they would. National surveys captured the shift in real time. The Survey Center on American Life reported something stunning. Americans who never attend religious services jumped from 1 in 4 before COVID to 1 in 3 by spring 2022. The most committed members kept watching online, but people who were loosely connected just drifted away. For churches built on experience, the loss was devastating. Jennifer Martinez had attended Lakewood for 8 years. She loved the music, the energy, the feeling of being part of something massive. Watching from home felt different. Without the crowd, without the lights, without the collective energy, the message started sounding thin, repetitive. Joel's sermons, which felt powerful in an arena of thousands, felt like generic self-help on a laptop screen. The same phrases, the same structures, the same promises about breakthrough and favor. Jennifer started asking questions she'd avoided for years. Was she growing spiritually? Or just feeling motivated? Was her faith deepening? Or was she just enjoying a weekly emotional boost? The pandemic didn't create her doubts. It just removed the distraction that had covered them. Across the country, millions had similar realizations. The spectacle had masked the emptiness. The experience had substituted for substance. And when the show stopped, what remained wasn't enough to hold people. Lakewood's attendance hasn't fully recovered. Neither have most megachurches. Some people came back, many didn't. The model that seemed unstoppable revealed its fatal flaw. It was built on feeling, not foundation, on inspiration, not transformation. And when the feeling disappeared, there wasn't enough underneath to keep people connected. This is what some researchers now call the motivational trap. Faith built primarily on emotional experience can't survive when the experience stops. It needs constant fuel, constant excitement, constant reinforcement. Strip away the production value, and you're left asking what's actually there. The problem wasn't Joel Osteen personally. It was the system itself, a structure designed to fill seats, not build depth, to create consumers, not disciples, to deliver an experience, not a transformation. And once people saw it, they couldn't unsee it. The fastest growing religious group in America isn't a denomination. It's the people who left and didn't go anywhere else. They're not angry. They're not rebelling. They're just done. And the numbers are staggering. According to Pew Research, the percentage of Americans who identify as religiously unaffiliated has nearly doubled in the last 15 years, from 16% in 2007 to 29% by 2021. Among adults under 50, it's even higher. This isn't about atheism. Most of these people still believe in God. They still consider themselves spiritual. They just don't see the point of organized religion anymore, especially the kind that feels more like a concert than a community. Megachurches thought they had the answer. Make it bigger. Make it better. Make it more entertaining. Remove the barriers. Eliminate the guilt. Focus on the positive. But they misunderstood what people actually needed. People don't just want to feel good for an hour on Sunday morning. They want to know how to handle suffering, how to find meaning in hardship, how to build a life that matters when things fall apart. You can't get that from a motivational speech. You can't get it from a light show. You can't get it from a celebrity pastor on a stage. You get it from depth, from struggle, from a community that knows you by name and shows up when life gets hard. Lakewood offered an experience, but experiences fade. They require constant renewal, constant stimulation, and when they stop, you're left with nothing to hold on to. The Willow Creek study warned about this back in 2007. The data was clear. Programs don't create transformation. Activities don't build spiritual maturity. Busy doesn't equal growing. But most megachurches ignored it, because acknowledging the problem meant admitting the model was broken, and the model was too profitable to abandon, until COVID forced the issue. When the doors closed and the cameras went live, millions of people had the same realization Jennifer Martinez did. The thing they thought was feeding them was just entertaining them. And once you see that gap, you can't pretend it isn't there. Some churches are trying to adapt. Smaller groups, deeper discipleship, less production, more substance. But it's hard to turn a cruise ship around once it's already moving. Lakewood hasn't made that turn yet. The services still look the same. The message hasn't changed. Joel still preaches destiny and breakthrough and favor. The lights still shine. The band still plays. But the seats tell a different story. Thousands of people who used to fill that arena every Sunday aren't coming back. Not because they found a better church, because they're asking different questions now. Questions the megachurch model was never designed to answer. What happens when feeling good isn't enough? What happens when inspiration runs out? What happens when the show stops and you realize you never actually learned how to build a faith that lasts? The megachurch promised you could have it all. Growth without sacrifice, faith without struggle, community without commitment. Turns out, you can't. And millions of people are walking away from the buildings that told them otherwise. The question isn't whether they'll come back. The question is what they're looking for now, and whether anyone is actually offering it.